Man, you want to get into that with me?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So I practice intermittent fasting.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that. So I fast 16 hours between last meal and my first meal. So like I typically don't eat breakfast because after I put our son to bed and do all that, that's usually when I eat my dinner, which tends to be kind of late. So I don't eat first thing until 1 or maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
But it's always the same exact thing.
Let me guess. Does it involve avocado?
Uh, it sometimes does involve avocado. That's a great guess.
Does it involve toast?
No.
Does it involve...
Is that because I'm from California?
Is it oranges? No, that's Florida, I suppose.
No, it's
I give up.
Yeah, it's cool. I do overnight oats. Do you know what
I know what overnight
oats
are.
are?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do overnight oats, and then I mix it with protein powder, chia seeds, turmeric, cayenne powder, cinnamon, almonds, half a banana, and frozen blueberries every
So
day.
Nate, I have to make some observations then. I've come to know your home studio that's in the Hollywood Hills, I'm sure, and
It
definitely
is.
not in a detached garage of, your work from home office.
Not at all.
You sound somewhat health conscious. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. It's so I've been, and this is just for me. I've been plant-based for like 10 years. I am not a militant vegan, and I definitely think that it works for me, but I don't think it works for everybody. So let me just I need to like say that because I think there's a lot of ways of eating really healthy and consciously.
If you were to meet a vegan that also did CrossFit,
Yes.
what would they tell you about first?
Like what?
See, this is an example of a joke that didn't hit, but that's
Oh,
I
I was gonna answer seriously.
No, well, you can if you
Okay.
want. It was more intended to be a joke. But Nate, you've been a highlight of my day for a long time with
Thanks.
your content on LinkedIn. You are what I would refer to as an employer branding and recruitment marketing. Is guru an acceptable word?
No.
Buzzword? Ninja, maybe?
I just have some like unique perspectives on the industry. That's all I think. I really.
So for those that maybe have been living under a rock or have not been on LinkedIn recently, exactly what do you do?
Yeah, so I lead brand marketing for a company called Job Portraits. We're based in the Bay Area in California. We do something very unique and kind of niche to the market. We're a content studio that specializes in employer branding content. And so we work almost exclusively with VC-backed tech companies. We partner with internal talent teams to create like really tactical storytelling content that like brings their culture to life that they can use to both like market internally and build really connected cultures, and also market externally to create awareness and enable their recruiters to generate more leads and open up more productive conversations with really hard to reach candidates, which tend to be engineers and just really skilled salespeople.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when it comes to employer branding and content, we know the startup world extremely well. Like we do tons of market research and we know what those candidates want. We know how those types of companies operate. It's just the world that we live in. So
the whole employer branding world, it seems like every year there's a different hot button topic.
Yeah.
I would say I was at a LinkedIn Talent Connect in Vegas. I think it was 2013-ish, maybe. I think it was 2013. And that's when employer branding was kind of like the big thing. And then it turned into employee engagement. And then it turned into, I don't want to say it turned into diversity and inclusion, but there's always a hot button topic that it seems like everyone's focused on. But I do feel like, I feel like it's almost better to attract the right people as opposed to go and convince the right people.
Yeah.
Whether it be a lifestyle choice or intermittent fasting or whatever. But what are some of the big changes that you've seen over the past couple of years in employer branding?
Yeah.
And at the same time, like certainly we're in a different market now than we were 2 months ago.
Sure.
I kind of feel like there's a huge hiring boom that's going to come post-pandemic.
Yeah.
And organizations that are taking steps now to really prepare for that are going to be better suited to win than the ones that are not. But I'd be curious to see what you've seen change in the employer branding world in the past couple of years. And at the same time, what advice you have for companies that may not be hiring now, but will be in, say, a month, 2 months, 3 months time.
Yeah. Both great questions. I think there's this big move, like, to use a buzzword, an overly used word is authenticity, right? But I think even more important than authenticity is transparency. And like, to speak to the point that you made about, there's like this attract and repel mindset that I think teams need to really embrace when it comes to attracting candidates or repelling candidates, is like, how can you create content and messaging and a brand that is going to really resonate with some candidates, and it's going to allow other candidates to just opt themselves out. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, instead of forcing a conversation to happen, help candidates self-select themselves in or out. And you can do that with content that just is extremely transparent, especially for startups. There's so much opportunity to do that because you experience challenges that are super unique in a way that other kinds of companies don't. You're scaling so fast. You're just doing really innovative things, like things are breaking, you're solving problems. Like, speak to all of those things. And also too, like, speak to the type of culture that you have in a way that is like, that is just true. That is like, we work really hard, you're going to work long hours, but we're really connected as a culture. That's going to resonate with some people, and it's going to repel some, right? I mean, like, those are just some examples, but I think, like, if you can lead with that, you're going to create this filtering mechanism with content that is going to allow recruiters to have more productive, more thoughtful conversations with the right people.
Right.
So that is what I see now as, like, the move. It's not just about creating any kind of content. It's about creating content that is really designed to attract and repel. So there's one. And then what can teams start doing now?
Yeah, like the companies that are going to win the next phase of the war for talent when it hits.
Yeah. So, like, as well as I do, that in startup world, recruiters mostly live in a hair on fire world where they have zero bandwidth. They have huge hiring goals. They're just moving so fast that they don't have any time or space to create. And now a lot of teams are on pause. They've hit pause on external hiring right now, and they can take a step back and really start building out their employer brand and be extremely thoughtful and creative about this. And I think recruiters especially are like the heroes of employer branding at startups, because they sit at the front lines. They're talking to candidates. They know what their market cares about most. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of really talented, creative recruiters that just don't have the ability to exercise that creativity because they're usually doing their work because they're so busy all the time. And so if you act as if, and you start creating this stuff now, when the doors open, you're going to be so far ahead. So I see this, like, now as, like, to get really tactical, is storytelling that you can market internally.
Yep.
To internal market, to build a more connected culture for the employees that are still with your organization, to make them feel safe, make them feel heard, remind them why they are part of your thing. That content can also double as external market awareness and assets you can send to candidates and outbound messaging when you open those doors up, right? So you're, like, priming the pump.
So are you in the camp that recruiting is almost more of a marketing function than it is in HR then?
I am. And the reason I say that is because I also feel that way with sales. Like, I think, like, if you look at consumer behavior, if you look at candidate behavior, things have really changed. Candidates and consumers want to get themselves as far down the funnel as they possibly can, doing their own research before they opt in and actually want to talk to somebody.
Right.
Right. That's just like how we all buy. A lot of times we buy without having to talk to anybody, and we love those experiences. That's why we have Amazon and stuff like that. I think that's how marketers should be leveraging their sales teams. And I think that's how talent teams should also be leveraged and see their recruiters as a marketing channel instead of a sales channel, as a way to like build personal brands, as a way to like start productive conversations and share content and create awareness to then drive leads. But I think like, I don't want to put recruiters in a sales bucket anymore because that's transactional. Right. I think they are more conversational and awareness driven. And in talking to a lot of recruiters and the feedback I get on like that philosophy, they're like raising their hands going like, I want to be a marketer. Like, you know, like that's what I want to do. And I think like if you see a recruiter as a channel, as a marketing channel, that gives them a lot of ability to create some cool stuff.
Well, and it's amazing too that recruiters typically have significant networks.
Significant, way more. In a lot of cases, they have maybe not in a numbers way, but in an influence way more than their company does.
Oh, totally. Right? And I think it's not just the numbers wise, but it's also the credibility of the source too.
Absolutely.
So it's like you go to your car and you have a menu on the windshield versus, hey Nate, what's the best restaurant in California? You know, when you have that trusted resource, you're gonna take that message differently. One thing that I'm really curious of is the impact. You mentioned the oftentimes what you focus on is the really talented sales folks, as well as engineers for startups. Technical blogs.
Yes.
Very few companies have them. Why don't they all have them?
Oh man, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I'm like genuinely excited about it because nobody ever talks about it.
Keep your oats in. Don't want to make you throw up.
No, when it comes to, okay, so I, you know this as well as I do. I've talked to companies who have successful engineering blogs who've built up a following over time. And they tell me that when they post, they have a direct uptick in qualified inbound engineering leads. Like that is what every startup is actually looking for. And the fact that they all don't have engineering blogs that they are seen as like the greatest talent acquisition tool when it comes to recruiting engineers is like mind-boggling to me. And I get that it's a heavy lift. I really do, because getting engineers to write is not easy, but it needs to be an initiative that a talent leader is really putting forth and is putting processes in place to help their engineers write. That could be ghostwriting for them. That could be like, there's ways to bring this stuff to life, but it's, to me, when it comes to recruiting engineers, it is like the lowest hanging fruit. I'm such a huge believer in it.
So when your clients come to you then, and I'm not trying to get your secret sauce or anything like that, but when your clients come to you and say, you know, here's our challenge. We just got Series B. We just got $25 million. We need to hire 50 people in the next 3 months. Of those 50, 20 of them have to be top 5% developers, engineers, what have you.
Yeah, that's the conversation.
We're in the same world.
We are.
The technical blog could be the technical blog is one of the core tools in the toolbox for a successful overall strategy.
Yes.
It is also the long-term play.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that conversation with that CEO, with that co-founder, that founder, whatever, to say, no, I need your commitment on this. Get it done.
Yeah. So I think it first is dependent on what type of assets they already have in place. Like how much foundational work have they already done? Do they have their career site built out? Do they have like core foundational, like evergreen stories? You know, like if they have that, then you can pivot more to, okay, the next step is going to be, let's build out an engineering blog. And like, that's writing that we do. Right? Like we ghostwrite for engineering teams. But if that stuff isn't in place, then you have to look at like a phase one is going to be like, maybe writing some like profile stories on like single engineers or the engineering team and maybe the engineering leader, like coming in with like a very tactical, like Q&A blog post to see how like the head of engineering thinks about the work that they're doing and his mindset as a leader, whatever, and then highlighting maybe a couple like single engineers or maybe the whole team,
Right.
that then the recruiters are equipped with. Those are all links and things that they can reach out to engineers with and say, like, look at what we're doing.
Right.
I think that would be a phase one, and then a phase two would be the engineering blog. But if you have some of that stuff already in place, then you move to the engineering blog. And I mean, if somebody wants to do, we actually have had a client who built out the entire thing that I'm talking about all at once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like, we're just continually writing stories for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done an amazing job.
So every network has advantages and disadvantages. It comes down to me as being a marketing funnel. Like, ultimately there's the awareness, there's the engagement, there's the deeper down you go.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is typically known as the recruiting platform. Instagram, you can't forget about Instagram. What's your TikTok handle? That's my big curiosity. You're a father of a 5-year-old. I'm sure you're
Actually,
entertaining.
I am entertaining. I've actually never been on TikTok before. Never.
I have not either.
Okay.
But my one business partner has a teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And he there's a what's it called? The Get Up. It's kind of like Blanco Brown, I think it was, the country song.
Okay.
The dance thing. And that's the first time I saw this TikTok thing, and I thought, I'm not coordinated in the slightest to be there. But I kind of feel like if it's got so much traction, it's just a matter of time before there's a recruiting
There will be.
goal.
There will be. Yeah, for sure. There's a guy on LinkedIn, Lorenz Esposito. He works for I can't remember their organization. They're based out of Denmark, I think.
Okay.
He has posted some stuff about TikTok for recruiting. Really interesting. And there is, if now's the time to experiment. Viewership, from what I hear on TikTok, is insane. It really is. So there's a lot of eyeballs on it. And here's the thing to always remember is that, like, if we're talking about influence, there's direct one-to-one influence. Like, I am trying to influence you, but then there's also like secondary influence. And you got to remember that if like you'll see Starbucks, like, did a whole, like, their employees were doing TikTok videos, which was like, that's employer brand awareness to work there, right? Because, like, if a kid sees a video from somebody working at Starbucks, they go tell their parent who might be looking for a job. That's like secondary influence, and that stuff's real, So, like, sometimes, like, let's look beyond just like one-to-one influence and see, like, oh, there's all these other indirect influences, because kids talk to their parents all the time.
Have you? I was chatting with a client a while ago. This was about a year ago now. That had a really, really tight relationship with its customers. Like, I'm not going to say which company because I don't want to,
Sure. Yeah.
do that. But even when a price reduction happens, they email, even if it's $1, they'll email them a discount or a refund of $1, that kind of thing. Was really having a hard time recruiting for a specific skill set. And I thought, for all these companies, like a Starbucks as an example, that has loyalty cards, loyalty programs in general. I'm curious if a company like a Starbucks or any other company that has a loyalty program could just leverage their customers more.
Yeah.
To help them attract people. Like, I think there's I think we're at this point in time where I think it's becoming more normal to view recruiting as a marketing function as opposed to that sales function or even HR function. Mm-hmm. But it seems like companies are a little hesitant to cross that line between paying customer and partner. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. Here's I'm going to get opinionated on this.
Okay, good.
All right. That's because there's this, in too many companies, there's this big divide between marketing and then the people function. Marketing wants to own the consumer side of things because they're focused on driving revenue, and they don't want anything that's going to get in the way of them driving revenue. But you have to realize, especially for B2C brands, for B2C brands, it's a no brainer, but for some B2B brands too, that your customer base is also your talent base.
Right.
Right. It's, again, that is very real and that needs to be recognized. And it's short-sighted to like neglect that and figure out a thoughtful way to market to those people, to let them know, because like, here's the cool thing about what's going on right now. Buyers and candidates care more than ever about the way that companies treat their people. Like, we are making buying decisions about the companies that we support based on the way that they treat their people. Mm-hmm. Those types of human stories about your culture and the way that you're operating, especially right now, is just like low-hanging fruit for marketers to showcase their culture, which then will also like create more awareness about working for your organization. I think like both of these sides need to realize that they're two sides of the same coin now. And so I think like marketing to your customer base is like just super smart.
So just being cost of the time. You're in a college town, you've got a beautiful home, you've got running trails all over the place. You're well fed, everyone's healthy.
Yeah. What's
the first thing you're going to do when it's safe to go outside again?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'm going to go get a coffee at my most favorite place. I'm going to walk my son up. We're going to go sit down. He's going to get a milkshake and I'm going to get a coffee at my most favorite coffee shop, like inside. Like, I just want to go there. I love that place so much and I miss it.
You want to give him a shout out?
Scout Coffee.
Scout Coffee.
Scout Coffee in San Luis Obispo, California.
There you go.
Homemade, house-made almond milk.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds like a tedious process.
It does, doesn't it?
Where are the almonds udders? Like, do you like?
You know what? I don't know, man. And I leave that to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait, man.
Nate, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad to actually meet you, like in a socially responsible way. Loving the new mailing list. Your daily stuff is amazing. You've been an influence on me and my team for a while, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And give us an up top right here. Ready?
All right.
Bam.
Gotcha. All right.
You be safe.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Okay, bye.